Now, the following item level breakpoints have been discovered, but what do these item powers mean? As we go to the next slide, I have prepared a crossbow that I found during leveling in one of the betas, and as you can see, it has the 338 item power breakpoint or range, stat range, so to say. And therefore, it comes with several modifiers like plus 13% vulnerable damage, 13% damage to close, 13% damage to distant enemies. And in the brackets, you can see the ranges that that modifier can roll in. So for example, vulnerable damage could roll between 10 and 15%. And when we then take a look at the item level breakpoints from the first slide, you can actually see that this crossbow is extremely close of going into the next range level. So that would be above 340 right here. As you can see, with a 338 item power, we are only lacking 2 item power. And by going to the blacksmith, we can actually add more than the 2 remaining item power to get to the next breakpoint level. You do this by going to the blacksmith, which will cost 15k gold and 15 iron chunks, which is quite cheap for the amount of power we are going to get. But keep in mind, the prices at the blacksmith are going to increase the further you upgrade your items. Now, if we would upgrade this exact crossbow to go over the 340 item power breakpoint, we would get the following crossbow. And as you can already see down here, the modifier values have changed completely. Now, previously we had a vulnerable damage stat rate from 10 to 15%, and that one is now increased from 14.7 to 21%. So that vulnerable damage modifier got instantly increased by 5.9% just by going above that breakpoint of 340. As you can see, 338 plus 5 item power. Same also goes for damage to close enemies and damage to distant enemies. As you can see, we got a free 8% damage to close enemies just by upgrading with the blacksmith for close enemies. And for distant enemies, we got 3.8% damage increase. And this also works if you already re-rolled a modifier on your crossbow, for example. As you can see, damage to distant enemies has these little arrows here and therefore wasn't on the item in its original state. So therefore, while you are going to level through the campaign, it is going to be extremely important to check the item's item power regularly and check if you are going to get over one of the breakpoints if you would upgrade your leveling pieces. In theory, during leveling, you could get into the habit whenever you are going to sell your inventory to check your item levels powers and then see if one of them is close to a breakpoint and then decide if it's worth it to upgrade that one. This is going to be especially useful when you are preparing to fight the capstone dungeon boss. Upgrading an item to its maximum possible upgrade level is probably not going to be worth it during leveling, but just one upgrade, if you can hit another breakpoint, is going to be very beneficial. So you have to judge for yourself if it's going to be worth upgrading an item at least once or maybe even twice to hit a certain breakpoint just to only get rid of it after 5 levels when you have found another item. So therefore think about blacksmith upgrading twice so you don't regret your decisions 5 levels later whenever you find another armor piece that is way better already, so you don't have to waste gold and materials.